But there's something else.
What do you mean?
6 men. They came in from the north, and then they followed the guerrillas.
Mean anything to you?
Probably just another rebel patrol. They operate in here all the time.
London Film and Comic Con 2017 for Hot Wampa. Dave's here.
Hello.
I'm here with a band of rebels, really, trying to make their way through West London to find the London Film and Comic Con. Olympia is a big building, but it's so far escaped us. Neil Walker and his son Aaron are here.
Hello.
Hello.
So what are you expecting today, Aaron?
Stuff.
Stuff.
Good stuff or bad stuff?
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Neil, what about you?
Hot women, skimpy outfits, the usual.
And that's
already sorted.
That's just us.
Yeah.
Okay then, the London Film and Comic Con, which we attended on, was it the 29th of last
July.
month, Mark? July.
Yeah, July.
Thank you. Cheers. London Olympia. Dates all merge into one for me, I'm afraid. Well, I guess we better do a bit of a special and talk about that. This is a little bit overdue, really, which I think we feel a bit bad about because we asked for reviews and complete strangers, really, were kind enough to send us reviews, and you always feel the onus then to honour what you've asked for and get those reviews out. So our apologies that this is a little bit late. We have been distracted with other projects. That's partly it is completely my fault. Obviously, we're keen supporters of Feel the Force Day, and they've come up against a bit of a problem at the moment. They've been burgled, and we've been trying to support their charity appeal at the moment for people to replace the losses. We'll talk a little bit about that later on because we've tried to support them, and we seem to have come up against indifference and apathy in doing so. And I think, I don't want to make it seem like it's an elephant in the room that we're not going to discuss. We will be discussing that at the end of our little special here once we've gotten through talking about the London Film and Comic Con. And also the passing of the great Sonny Landham, Mark.
Yeah, Sonny Landham, obviously a big presence in Predator, Poltergeist as well, among other films.
48 Hours?
Yeah, and a character that we really enjoyed, and some interesting stories about him when we talked about Predator.
He's an interesting guy in general. I managed to dig up a bit of information on him yesterday, mostly from the usual sources, Wikipedia, IMDb and stuff. Quite a colourful and interesting character. So towards the end of this, if we get a bit of time, in addition to updating people about where things currently are with Feel the Force Day, we'll have a bit of time to talk about Sonny Landham and recall him, remember him as best as we can, I think. So, London Film and Comic Con, like you said, we attended on the 29th of July, the Olympia, London. Went down, there was it 6 of us on a train?
Yeah, I think so. And we met another guy down there, didn't we? Neil Walker's boss.
Was it Nick?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Theoretically, he was on the same train. We just couldn't find him.
We were just on a different platform, weren't we?
A different platform with different carriages. Anyway, whatever it was, we rendezvoused with him there. I think there was around 6 of us. The transition from King's Cross train station through to the Olympia via the underground wasn't as straightforward as we'd thought, was it? Because we went on the underground and we had to get off a station early, didn't we?
Yeah, I believe there was some train trouble in the daytime. So, when we arrived, what was supposed to be a 10-minute walk seemed a lot longer than that, didn't it?
Yeah, but which station was it we ended up getting off at?
Can't remember. Was it Baron's Court?
That's the one.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's Baron's Court. Yeah, so we disembarked the underground there and emerged back into daylight, and there was then the 6 of us were then traipsing through that part of London on our journey to get to London Olympia. And we did record a little bit of audio dialogue between us, which was, some of it was quite funny during that walk. And I'll put some of that audio dialogue into the podcast as seg so you can hear it as we go along. I'll also be endeavouring to do my best to put as much of Sonny Landham's dialogue from Predator as a bit of a nod and an Easter egg towards Sonny as we progress throughout this podcast. So if you get random pieces of audio prop up from Predator, that's why, because I just feel like doing it because I think it's fun.
Okay, so still on the way to London Film and Comic Con, just passing the Warwick Arms.
Isn't that the pub out of Shaun of the Dead?
It's not the pub out of Shaun of the Dead, that's in Bermondsey in Millwall, but I wondered if Mr. Davis was probably in there having a short one.
He's getting caned in there, yeah?
Yeah, before getting on, what are those things called?
Segway.
Segway, yeah.
Interesting piece of trivia about the Segway.
Go on.
Did you know the bloke that used to own the company that manufactures them was killed on his own Segway when he accidentally reversed off a cliff on it?
Really?
Yep.
Well, there we go.
So we traipsed our way through London, discussing various topics on way, and we finally got there. The queuing system seemed a bit strange to me, Mark. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, it's very similar to how it was last year. Basically, when you disembark at the Olympia platform from the London Overground, you end up in a queue that takes you all the way around the actual building. But I think when we actually queued, we were almost on the corner where that Pizza Express is. So the queue has sort of died down, because I guess what time did we get there? After 11, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't the crack of dawn, was it? I mean, we didn't leave Ely that early.
No, we left Ely I think about 9, didn't we? 8:58 train. So
yeah, vodka and 7-Up on the 8:58 train, along with sugar-laden sweets. So we should have been buzzing about, really. I think we needed that to fuel us for the walk that was ahead, anyway. So it was underground and failed overground, which wasn't failed when we got there because the station there was open, despite the fact that we thought it was going to be closed because of engineering works. I think that damped it down, because I think in previous years when you've been, Mark, I mean, this was my first London Film and Comic Con. You're a bit of a veteran to the scene.
Yeah, it's my fourth one, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that perhaps damped it down, because I think perhaps if the more people, or we had been on the train that took us there directly, we might have started to see more cosplayers and what have you on the train in.
Yeah.
As it was, it seemed a bit open. I mean, in the queue and the line as we got to outside the Olympia, and this sort of bizarre thing that was going around corners and up and down the high streets or what have you, that seemed quite thin with not many people in it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the queue would have been quite long if it was full. I guess earlier on in the day it would have been. Obviously, this event is on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. We went on a Saturday, just before midday, I guess, by the time we got in. But yeah, you're right. There weren't too many cosplayers on show, was there?
No, I thought there would have been a bit more, and perhaps then we could have had the opportunity to talk and perhaps get a few audio clips from people in the queue. But it didn't matter. I mean, they seemed to be marshalling this line, despite the fact that there didn't seem to be very many people in it. And we followed the line, walked around, went through what I thought was quite a quick and liberal security check, which, considering the climate in London these days, was rather surprising. Yeah,
it was just a quick random bag check, wasn't it? I mean, if you had a backpack, you might not get checked. It all depends, really, how they felt. And your appearance, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were okay. Passed through that, went in there, really started to mill around and have a look around. I think it's a bit bizarre because you're on those different tiers, you have those different levels. And I think, you had various areas where various celebrities were signing photographs or having photographs done or doing autographs or what have you, queuing up. Most of the central court down the bottom was the show stalls and stuff, wasn't it? I mean, not show stalls, it was the vendors, I would have said.
Yeah, merchandising, t-shirt companies like Last Exit to Nowhere. They did have a gaming section downstairs, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, it wasn't that large a section, but it was there. Some of the older sort of consoles and systems. To me, they still seem modern ones because I never really owned any of them.
Yeah.
I went from a Commodore 64 to a modern PC and skipped everything out in between.
I had the Commodore Amiga was my favourite, and unfortunately, didn't have one there.
No, it's a bit of a shame when you go around these things and you get these retro things. And they had a few other bits and pieces down there as well, didn't they? I think they had the Batmobile and a Batboat on a trailer. And
from the 60 series, right?
That's right, yeah. And a Bat motorbike. Various other things that we'll be missing out, which people can probably point out to us.
Well, with that, Dave, I mean, that's quite interesting because Adam West was due to be there, wasn't he? And sadly, he passed away this year.
Yes.
So I guess he would have been around there, maybe taking photos with fans.
Yeah, well, I guess it's one of them things. I mean, so many of these people are passing away. It doesn't seem, it seems sometimes like every other podcast we're trying to give someone a mention who's passed away recently. It's such a shame. Yeah, I mean, you had like mostly stalls and vendors. I wasn't overly interested. There was some interesting stuff amongst that. I mean, those sort of, what was it, wood burners, weren't there, that someone had built around there?
Yeah, they were good, weren't they? Like Predator's Head, Boba Fett,
Alien.
Death Star. Yeah, they were good, decent. Wood burners they would look good in the garden in the evening over the summer.
Yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? Sort of around dusk, sticking some firewood into Darth Vader or something, and sitting out there with a nice cold scotch or something and just relaxing. I quite like that. You
purchased the T-shirt, didn't you?
Yeah, I got one. Was it Last Exit from Nowhere? I got it from. It was the Colonial Viper Squadron T-shirt that they do.
Yeah.
Because with being a bit of a big Battlestar Galactica fan, and I noticed it there, and I liked the design. It's sort of military style badge, and I just thought, yeah, well, that's kind of nice. It kind of pays homage to both the original Battlestar Galactica and the reimagined one. So I thought, yeah, I'm having that. So I've got that. Yeah. Did you get any T-shirts?
No, I didn't. I often buy them online. I was having a look, around, but I like something that's sort of unique, and I didn't see anything that was just totally different. I think the thing that did catch my eye was the Blade Runner prints that were set up like a pulp novel kind of thing. So yeah, I'm still considering buying one of them and having a look online for them.
That sort of singing detective style sort of cover, that sort of really retro,
yeah,
like you say, 50s paperback type thing. And I understand what you're talking about. They did really look good, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Very well themed. That was something that was good there. I think a lot of the artwork that was for sale, I mean, a lot of it wasn't cheap, obviously, but a lot of the sort of variations and renditions of things like Star Wars posters and stuff like that was really impressive, and just sort of general movie memorabilia in that way. It wasn't just a case of trying to sell replicas of old stuff or what have you. You couldn't help thinking that someone had taken a little bit of original flair to a lot of the art that was on sale there.
And that's often difficult to do, isn't it? I mean, we're all fans of different genres, but to actually take something that's already really familiar and spin it in a way that people find more interesting or artistic, so it is appreciated, and it's certainly something I'd consider buying.
It is, because it's not only is it unique, but I think in some of the examples like the Blade Runner you're talking about, it was done well, and you could tell it was done well, and I think it was appealing. It was little things like that, I think, that I noticed. I mean, the T-shirt purchase I made was a bit of an impulse thing. I saw it, I liked it, I had it kind of thing. But then I'm not necessarily in the online places or going around to places where that sort of thing would be on sale anyway, so there's probably no end of variations of that sort of thing out there, but it's not something I tend to come across in my daily life, so to speak. So I thought, yeah, well, I'll have that while I'm there.
Okay, we're coming to a junction. I think Olympia's up here. So
Left,
to the left. To the left.
It's the longest 8 minutes ever.
It did seem more than 8 minutes, I must admit.
Don't say.
Not one for the morbidly obese.
Wearing superhero t-shirts.
Yeah, and the top tip, if you're going to London Film and Comic Con, upstairs is always air conditioned. Downstairs is a bit moist.
Or it will be.
It will be when Mark walks in the door.
I will, with my sweaty palms. That's my X-Men power.
Is there anything that you saw that you thought, yeah, I could really have that, but you never quite, could bring yourself to cash up for it?
Well, obviously some of the comic book sections, some of the comic books in there, you're talking thousands that are displayed. Original 1960s Marvel pieces, and they're kind of things that I would like to have, but what would you actually do with them?
Would you like to have them enough, though, to justify the cost of them?
I guess if I had a large corridor and a wing of a house where I could display them in, free of sunlight kind of thing, then it may be. But yeah, I couldn't justify it in my current situation to have a Amazing Fantasy 14 or something like that, you know.
Yeah, well, what's the most expensive comic book? Wasn't it like $7,000 or something?
Yeah, there was one at the London Film and Comic Con that was 24 grand, I think.
24 grand?
Yeah, that was a Spider-Man one.
Jesus.
But is it Action Comics? The first appearance of Superman, I think Nicolas Cage owned that, and that was over $1 million. So,
really?
Yeah.
But what would you'd only ever leave them in their protective sheaths, though. You'd never take them out, would you?
No, and they'd certainly be in a safe somewhere, wouldn't they?
They'd never be read. I mean, I remember in my own childhood owning comic books, and I think within a week the cover would be torn on them, and then I'd do the crossword or the word search or something that was in them, because kids' comics used to have these things back in the 1980s. Ask your parents. So I'd scribbled all over it with the answers to that or whatever puzzles that were in there. And so on. There's no comics. I mean, I've got some old comics up in the loft, old Star Wars Marvel titles from the early 80s, 83, 84, from my own childhood.
Yeah.
And I've got them, and all sorts. I've got Spider-Man and Zoids. I think I've got a couple of Secret Wars. And occasionally I'll take them down and have a bit of a nostalgic flick through them, yeah, and just look at sort of old stories I can remember reading and stuff. But they're probably worth like 10p each or something, because they've been so well read, and I've been through them so many times. They're not exactly what you would call pristine.
Yeah, so that mint condition or near mint condition, they're probably a long way from that.
But then it's fair to say I enjoyed them as they were intended to be enjoyed.
Well, I think that's the idea, isn't it? It's all dependent. It's the same as records. If you collect records, isn't it? You either enjoy listening to it, or you keep it unwrapped. You know, lock it away somewhere.
I suppose it's stages of life as well. I mean, I must have like £1,000 worth of Star Wars Lego.
Yeah.
What do I do with it? I build it up and it sits on a display shelf, and that's it. Whereas these things were designed, you know, to be taken apart and rebuilt with different designs and just played with. But to me, I don't. There's probably some kid would look at my shelf here and think, what a waste.
Yeah, definitely. Who would probably love to play with it, right?
Yeah, and it's never going to happen. So, I think I can understand that kind of passion to collect. And there's a lot there in that sort of thing, comics and what have you. The wood burners were good. We got a quick video clip of those bespoke themed wood burners, as it were, in the photo and video slideshow that we've already released on the London Film and Comic Con. So hopefully those of you that are subscribers or aren't complicated on what platforms you listen to the podcast or the file actually plays, etc., have seen that and had a chance to have a look at that and have a look at some of the things that we got to see whilst walking around the London Film and Comic Con. I'm not in there much. That's the trouble sometimes when you actually hold the camera. You're never in anything.
Yeah, that's right. You're always the other side, aren't you?
Yeah, I go there, took the footage, roped everyone's photographs in. I think I'm in one photograph, come home, did a work on it, and people soon think, hang on, where's Dave? Oh, I was there, I trust me, I promise you.
Well, there was a big hoo-ha about the latest Doctor Who a couple of weeks ago, wasn't there?
And being a woman?
Yeah, but I was convinced it was going to be you after seeing the photos, you know.
The TARDIS photo?
Yeah, they might take you up on it and give you a contract at the BBC.
I only went in there because I thought it was the Portaloo.
Well, luckily you found out before you went in.
I'll tell you what, I hope the next person in didn't go and check in the corner. The TARDIS was leaking, I can tell you that much.
Oh, no.
I was sure there was all sorts in there. Meet me at King's Cross Toilets cards and all sorts, and talk to Chloe, dirty chat cards and all sorts on the wall. I think I added a Hot Wampa podcast card to it as well.
I think those stickers and cards can be found throughout Europe now in toilets.
They're all in seedy locations, wherever seedy locations can be found. You can find With Left Arm Mark on the place. I think that's about the only photo I'm in on that slideshow, but there's some good photos of cosplayers that I think that our entire group in general took. So, you know, if that's in our feed, if you haven't seen that, we're assuming you have, go back and have a look or download that or stream that or however.
We met Chris Vint, didn't we?
Yes.
And you're in that photo, so...
Yes, right at the end there with Chris Vint. He's in the middle, isn't he, between you and me, I think?
Yeah, like a rose between two thorns.
That's certainly true. I mean, Chris is someone who's no stranger to this podcast. I mean, he's even guested on a special we did on Rogue One, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right.
And he's participated as well in... Oh, he also left us audio clips for the Celebration Europe special that we did. He's also recently provided his voice and even made a donation to the Feel the Force Day Just Giving charity campaign, which we're currently very much behind. So Chris is no stranger to Hot Wampa. So it was nice to actually meet him. I think the trouble was that everyone there was kind of busy flitting around looking at different things. I think Chris was there for the full 3 days, and I think, he kind of tried to follow a pattern as it was. So he on the Saturday we saw him, he hadn't even been downstairs yet, had he?
No, and I mean, you talk about his donation to Feel the Force Day, their Just Giving campaign, but I mean, the chap must have spent a hell of a lot of money that weekend, because he was lined up for different appointments for photos with many celebrities, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've seen a good few of him. I mean, it was like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory for him. He was just flitting about from one celeb to the other. So
it was nice to get to meet him, though. Like you said, I mean, it was a bit of a hectic pace, so nobody really had a chance to stop and chat to other people, was it? So, But yeah, it was nice to get to meet Chris at last. So, and I'm sure he'll be coming back in the Hot Wampa in the future with the various ways he contributes. I was really surprised actually if he doesn't get a video podcast up on his YouTube channel, Vintermania, about the London Film and Comic Con. Because for fans of comics and the sort of superhero scene and stuff, he's got quite a few good videos there when he talks about his collections and that. And the way Chris does it, it's not just, look, I own this, it's not just I own that. A lot of people kind of seem to brag. What I like about Chris is he tends to go into the history of what he's talking about. He actually knows his subject, and they're quite interesting. So yeah. I'm certain he'll have something up in the future if he's not got it up already, and if he has, we'll plug that and link it when it comes to us. So it was nice to meet Chris.
Okay, we're on the cusp now of Kensington High Street.
Hi.
So the venue is right in front of us, to the left. But not many cosplayers so far.
Not so far.
No.
Unless there's something going on that we don't know.
Some man complimented Neil on his Venom t-shirt, so...
Good in this.
That's what he said, you look good in that.
Well, it's got a proven 100% track record so far, so it's...
That's better than any other clothing item.
Yeah, we can't dispute his claim there, really.
Proofs in the pudding.
Surely that cane should have tennis balls on the bottom.
Like the old man from Up.
Exactly.
Or suction cups.
Yeah. She could climb a building with that.
Universal.
Fires off like a grappling hook.
Especially at Universal Studios.
Universal Music.
Yeah, it's Universal, yeah, it's a music arm. I don't know who sings for Universal these days.
Not many people.
No. I'm keen on Rita Ora though.
You've got something going on.
Yeah.
I think some of the stands I liked more as opposed to the vendor stands were the little group stands going around. So I think if I give one example, there was one on the old Colonial Marines from Aliens, wasn't there?
That's right, yeah.
And I guess they're like cosplayers that are really into sort of like trying to make up the Colonial Marines armour and the weapons and this, that and the other. And they had the different badges on the side, like almost like Colonial Marines UK branch, Colonial Marines Australian branch, etc. Please correct me, any listeners, if I'm getting names wrong, which I almost certainly am, and so on. And I quite like the fact that you get these like little fan organisations, whether they be cosplayers or collectors or something, that they themselves were putting little stalls there just to exhibit. I mean, possibly to drum up interest in their groups and increase their own numbers and get people interested in what they're doing. But I kind of felt, to me, that's where a lot of the charm lies, not in the corporate side of a convention. I felt the same way about Star Wars Celebration Europe. When we went in 2007, it was quite open. There was a lot of different exhibitions that you could, and it was some things people had crafted up, different variations on Vader helmets, and they were in a display, and there were replica props and weapons and stuff like that, which different fans across Europe had sent in that were set up in displays. And it felt like you could actually go around in an unmarshalled way, almost like a museum, yeah? And look at this stuff and take it in and enjoy it. And there seemed to be a lot of it there. And yet then when we went to Celebration Europe last year, it felt like that piece of the soul had been kicked out of it. It felt queues, vendors, merchandise, more money to spend on the day for autographs, this, that and the other. If you were fortunate enough to be in a position to queue for a wristband, you might get into a panel or something. But it didn't seem to have that sort of basic charm. And I think to a degree the London Film and Comic Con felt a little bit like that as well. It's hard to be too critical because we were moving the whole time. And maybe we could have taken that from some of them sort of smaller, more fan-based side displays if we had stopped and really took it in more. I don't know.
There were certainly like seminars on like movie makeup, weren't there? Like that Cyclops guy. You remember we saw him getting made up. And I guess there was a cosplaying seminar. There was a few of those. And we walked into one by accident, really. And we ended up seeing Christopher Lloyd talking, didn't we? And is it Tom Wilson? Tom Wilson, right? The guy from Back to the Future.
Biff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Thomas F. Wilson, yeah. So I know that was quite interesting because this guy, Filthy, who's a friend of ours who came along, he sort of he's a really big bloke, isn't he, Dave? And
he's a big guy. You can't miss him in a crowd.
But when people are looking for him, he's like smoke. He just vanishes. And all of a sudden, he was sitting in this seminar, which I don't think we had a wristband or anything for. And so we kind of just snuck in with him. And we were sitting there, listening to Christopher Lloyd telling anecdotes about Jack Nicholson. So that was quite interesting.
Were we supposed to have a wristband or a ticket or something for that?
Yeah, I think so. Or we should have signed up for it before, I think. So.
But instead we just kind of walked in there and somehow we sat there watching it.
Yeah, that's right. And, we had Thomas Wilson talking about his experience with Adam West and how he was emotional that he actually knew who he was and stuff like that. But it was nice listening to celebrities telling stories that are probably told dozens of times before,
Yeah. Christopher Lloyd is always as good fun. I mean, he's another guy. He just seems to be the same age forever. He's just the same age as he is now, back in the mid-80s when he was in the Back to the Future films.
Yeah, like when he had the facelift in Back to the Future 2 and he peeled off the skin and he just looked exactly the same. And that's quite relevant, I think. You're right.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Filthy. He's a bit of an enigma, isn't he?
He is. I mean, we obviously saw Pamela Anderson from a distance, didn't we? Pamela Anderson 10, 15 years ago was one of the biggest stars in the world, arguably. So to have her at this London Film and Comic Con, I think everyone wanted a glimpse of her. And in the end, they put another partition down the left side to stop people looking down the line at her. But Filthy kind of was walking across the lines, so he wasn't queuing up. He was just seeing who he could see. And from what he told me, he just stumbled, and there was Pamela Anderson in front of him. And like the woman who was obviously her manager or press officer just said, "What would you like?" And he looked at Pamela Anderson and said, "I don't know what I'm doing." And in the end, he got a picture and a signed photograph, I think. So, so he actually got closer than most of us.
Isn't that amazing? The thing is, like you said, there's all these sort of orderlies and people trying to marshal it. And if you sort of filmed or snapped a photograph of celebrities, they were onto you like a little ninja or something. And there's always an attempt to control it. And I think if you and me had just sort of walked down there and were milling about and just looking at celebrities and stuff the way that Filthy was, someone would have been over and said something to us and we'd probably have been removed.
Yeah.
And yet, what is he, about 6'3", 6'4", built like a bloody tank?
6'4". Yeah.
And he kind of walks around in that sort of location and nobody seems to see him somehow.
And he's not exactly quick either. He just sort of, ambles left to right and he's there. And, we should have tried that on Tricia Helfer, I think.
She still looks good as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does, yeah.
She's a sort of person that's kind of looked after herself anyway. It was nice to at least see these celebrities from a distance. I mean, there were other celebrities there, people like Peter Mayhew and David Prowse that we could actually see quite clearly, wasn't there?
Yeah, and they all they've done it many times before.
Yeah.
And obviously they enjoy themselves. I think we got a glimpse of the director, Kevin Smith, Mads Mikkelsen, people like Matt Lucas, Tobe Hooper, director of Poltergeist. He was quite easy to see. Mads Mikkelsen looking a bit like a cowboy.
Yeah.
Dean Cain, the TV Superman.
Yes.
Yeah, we saw a lot of those. A lot of Game of Thrones actors, people like
Mark
that.
Sheppard.
Yeah. Benedict
Veronica
Cumberbatch.
Cartwright.
Yeah, and she looked reasonably good, didn't she, for her age?
Yeah, I thought so.
But Benedict Cumberbatch was locked away, wasn't he? I guess he was the big draw after having Doctor Strange out last year and Sherlock, etc. But he was well sort of locked away. We didn't get to see him, do we?
No, they had him in like some sort of clandestine thing behind screens, out to a section by itself. I mean, personally, I wouldn't have wanted to queue and see him. I know a lot of people, but it's probably a big deal for them. But I don't know. As an actor, he's never personally appealed to me.
No, and we saw the Emperor as well from the distance, didn't we?
Ian McDiarmid.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw him from a distance. So it's you still, I think, even if you're not in the queues to remortgage your house and buy autographs or photographs of these people, at least you're still in a position where you can get a glimpse more openly, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first year we went to Celebration Europe and they had a big stage set up outside and Mark Hamill went and took that stage. And to us, he was just like a little matchstick man, like a mile away, you know, because the crowd was kept so far back from that stage and we wouldn't even have realised it unless it was going through the zoom on your camera that it was actually Mark Hamill up there. So
yes.
I guess
it's always disappointing.
Yeah, you weren't so distant, I suppose. You could at least get a glimpse of these people.
There were quite a few cancellations as well, Dave. Colin Baker, Ron Perlman, who was Hellboy, Walter Koenig from Star Trek, Robert Llewellyn, Crichton from Red Dwarf.
That's right.
Linda Blair from The Exorcist, and Jack O'Halloran.
I don't know what possessed her to cancel.
Kirstie Alley,
yes.
Tia Carrera, she wasn't there. Robert Hardy, who sadly passed away after the London Film and Comic Con, he was due to be there. Doug Jones.
We can forgive him though, surely.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and even Geoffrey from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was supposed to be there, but he didn't come. So
was he like the butler guy or something?
That's right, yeah. So.
Yeah. So I guess there was a lot of cancellations, but they had a lot of celebrities anyway, and it was they were kind of spread all over the place, really, weren't they?
Yeah, and some of them had more sort of decent air-conditioned areas than others. So
do you think that's part of the demands for them to do it? Like a rider,
yeah, probably.
They've got to be at a certain temperature, etc., etc.
Yeah, they could well be.
Yeah. That must have shocked the hell out of him when Filthy decloaks in front of him and he's just standing there.
Yeah, what do you want? Oh, I don't know. What have you got?
Well, it's not like that. It's no laughing matter. Even we lost him, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. He certainly got away for it a few times.
Yeah, but like a mountain-sized homing pigeon, he somehow he still comes back, doesn't he? I mean, he was on a different train coming back, wasn't he? You found him there.
Yeah.
He's a bizarre character.
Yeah, there's our pub up there.
The Winchester, that was the pub in Shaun of the Dead.
That was the pub in Shaun of the Dead. So the Hilton Olympia just opposite us, the hotel where a lot of the famous people stay who are exhibiting today, and then the Hand and Flower pub, where we often pop for a break somewhere in the afternoon.
Flash for a place where the well-to-do celebrities would reside.
You couldn't imagine Pamela Anderson taking a shower in there, could you?
I could.
Oh, okay. So there it is.
Olympia. Is this something of a Mecca moment for us? Do we?
I don't know. I think it's too early to document this expedition.
You think?
Yeah, on film. And it does look a bit sparse. I can see people queuing.
Was it sort of busier with cosplayers and the likes in prior years?
Yeah, it was. And I mean, this is the pub where you find a lot of people loitering outside Half Cut.
A bit early for Filthy, yeah.
I don't know. We've already had a slightly large bottle of 7-Up and vodka.
Generally, there's a lot more cosplayers on the tube and that area, isn't there?
Yeah, but perhaps because we didn't come in to the Olympia station. Yeah.
Why didn't we come in there?
He said it was partially closed, so we recommended getting off at Barron's Court and walking.
Oh, right.
But with cookies, maybe they just realised that I needed to burn a few more calories before we got there. There was one guy called Dan Fogler,
Right.
and he was on like a comic book stand. But a lot of people were really interested, like, because a lot of the artists, obviously, we don't know their faces, but some people were going up there. And there was one guy called Dan Fogler who was really popular with a lot of people. And it turned out that he actually acted in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Okay.
But he's also a comic book writer and artist. So he was kind of like doing a dual role, really. So that's why a lot of people recognised him for that, rather than his actual art.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel, I mean, you've been previous years, like I said, this was my London Film and Comic Con cherry for me. It was the first time I'd been. Did you feel that actually inside the convention and walking around the different tiers and the sort of more public open areas, that there wasn't quite the cosplay presence that you'd seen in years before?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think, it wasn't exactly overwhelming with cosplayers. There were certainly some good ones. But yeah, it just felt a little underplayed, and probably a lot of people walking around just like us. Not so many cosplayers. But I also questioned this, whether it was due to the fact that we haven't had so many sort of, I don't know, big movies, or I don't know. And when you think of Rogue One, I mean, what would you dress up, or who would you dress up from Rogue One, really?
Chirrut obeys.
Yeah, perhaps.
Krennic in his white uniform and cape.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few options there, but I do understand your point. It's got no real sort of visually outstanding characters in that way. I mean, we did see a few people going back to The Force Awakens that were dressed as Rey walking about, didn't we?
Yeah, Rey's a popular costume, and obviously Kylo Ren pops up quite a lot.
Yeah.
But I think, like last year, I remember there were lots of Deadpool, lots of, what else? Wolverine, I guess Game of Thrones, things like that. And there were lots of big movies last year that people wanted to dress up as, you know. This year, not so many.
Yeah, but there was a few sort of Captain Americas and that kind of thing. I guess that's kind of the focus at the moment, perhaps.
Yeah, and Wonder Woman. We saw a few Wonder Women.
Yeah, I don't know. Who was the Wonder Woman that was in our photos? I think it was one that Neil Walker took.
And she seemed like a professional cosplayer, didn't she?
Do you think?
Well, she shaved anyway.
She didn't go as Chewie. We'll give her that.
No, and I mean, I sort of wonder, those women on that island that Wonder Woman lived on, you know.
Yeah.
They certainly had some good hygiene.
Yeah, no, fair play to them. I mean, I've put that photograph into the cover art for this podcast as well. So if anybody knows her, give her a shout. Or if anybody knows who she is, give us her name. Don't worry, we won't track her down and stalk her. But we would like to give her credit for featuring as our cover girl, really, in the podcast. So if anyone knows her, get in touch with her, let her know that we've used that image, and let us know who it is. If they might want to remain anonymous. I don't know, in which case don't get in touch with us. But, you know, we'd like to give credit if possible. If anyone's got a name for it, we'll give her a shout. I mean, talking of cosplayers and people that have attended in cosplay and people that have attended to turn up and meet celebrities, this, that and the other, we did put the call out in some of the London Film and Comic Con social media forums for reviews, and this is always such digging in the dark, I think, because a lot of people just want to post about themselves and photographs and this, that and the other, and you actually put a request out there for someone to interact with us, and we then talk about what you say or put your sound clips on the podcast, which then goes into iTunes, and then you can brag that you're on iTunes. But for some reason that people don't want to know, I don't know. But we were fortunate, despite the thousands of people that our posts must have appeared in front of, to get a couple of reviews back in from London Film and Comic Con attendees. They're probably sitting around wondering where our podcast has been to get these reviews out there. So should we have a read through and look at some of these reviews?
Yeah, please, yeah.
Okay, the first one we got in was from Lauren Geary, and she answered that call that we put out. She emailed us on the 10th of August at 9:40pm, and Lauren went on to say, "Hi, I just wanted to say that I drove 2 to 3 hours to the event entirely for James and Oliver Phelps, and I certainly wasn't disappointed. I've been to many different conventions over the past few years, but they were the nicest, kindest men I've ever had the pleasure to meet. I got a photo and a signed picture, and they were just so lovely and happy and talkative. If anyone listening to the podcast wants to go and meet them, I highly recommend it. Thanks, Lauren. And Lauren's left us a nice little smiley face there next to a capital L. Maybe that's the way she shorthands signing her name, I don't know. James and Oliver Phelps, did we cross them at all?
I don't recall James and Oliver Phelps.
No, I mean, I guess they must have been there. But I could hear Mark's keyboard frantically banging away.
Yeah, I'm having a look at these guys.
Yeah. Are you going to get a touchscreen or something at some stage, or a tablet?
I will get round to it one day. Okay,
sure
James and Oliver Phelps are Ron Weasley's twin brothers in Harry Potter. Yeah, so that's who they are.
Okay, that's probably why they've not really come up on our radar much. I mean, we should have been really professionals and Googled them before we recorded this.
Yeah, Fred and George Weasley in Harry Potter.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like these two gentlemen are actually... Oh, they're the twins?
Yeah. Yeah,
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, sort of blonde, gingy-haired type kids.
Yeah, that's right. Like all the Weasleys.
Oh, I'm not putting comments here on the palette of someone's hair. Yeah. Okay, I know we are. Well, it sounds like she certainly was rewarded for her efforts. I mean, she had quite a logistical haul. Drove 2 to 3 hours to the event. I mean, well, that could just be driving across London, couldn't it?
Well, also, we've all wanted to spend some time with twins, haven't we? So, that's a bit of a coup for her.
I'm a twin. I've never had this kind of fan attraction.
Well, there we go. We just haven't promoted you in the right way, Dave.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'll be nice if anyone wants to meet me. So, yeah, it does sound like she very much got rewarded for her efforts. I mean, they sounded like they were very polite and amicable towards her. And she sounds like she's had a very good day and very memorable. So that's good for Lauren. If we move on to the next one. Now, this is a bit... I'm going to struggle with the names a bit here, okay?
Okay.
Because I believe this is from Sophia Anastasia. But the email says Sophia Anastasia Martine Richardson. Now, I don't know if Sophia has 4 names that she uses all together as like a sentence there, or whether this is like a joint email account thing. So we're going to assume that it's Sophia and carry on talking about it as if it's Sophia, just for the sake of clarity. And if it turns out that her name's Sophia Anastasia Martine Richardson, she's going to have to correct us. Or it turns out it was Martine Richardson that emailed us, she'll have to correct us. But we'll assume it's Sophia going forward. Whoever it was, they emailed us on the 11th of August at 11:21 p.m. And they were kind enough to send us a couple of photographs as well. And Sophia, potentially Sophia Anastasia Martine Richardson, or even Martine Richardson. I'm getting confused now, aren't I? Anyway, I cosplayed as a female Joker on the Sunday, and my friend cosplayed as a female Marty McFly. I wonder if the friend was Martine Richardson. Or was the friend Sophia Anastasia? I don't know either. Let's just hope they get it. My friend cosplayed as a female Marty McFly. And both casual on the Saturday with our own design tops with celebrity names on the back. Now, whoever this person is was kind enough to send me a photograph of themselves and the friends with these custom design tops. And what they were like, white tops. And what they'd done on these white tops, they'd written the names, I think, of the guests that they either wanted to meet or spot or perhaps get a photo or autograph on the tops, yeah? And next to each name, they'd put like a box. And where they'd met like a guest, they put a tick in the box.
Right.
I've also incorporated that photograph into our cover art. It'll be in the banner bit up the top behind Hot Wampa. So for this specific cover art in this episode, and they said I could do it. They gave me permission to do it. You can see it up there. It is a little bit hidden, but you'll get the idea of what I've just described to you. And so they cosplayed on the Friday, and then they went out on a Saturday with these t-shirts, and I think they perhaps looked to get a few ticks in the box, so to speak. Goes on to say, the Saturday was amazing. However, we arrived later as we travelled 4 hours to get there. This is starting to make our haul to get down to the London Film and Comic Con quite leisurely, isn't it?
It is, yeah. There's some of these proper marathons.
That's dedication, isn't it?
Yeah.
As Roy Castle used to sing. I felt a little uncomfortable as it was my first Comic Con without a costume. We've never done a Comic Con with a costume, have we?
No. And I must admit, when you sometimes feel embarrassed that you're not wearing any costumes.
Yeah, even in Hot Wampa t-shirt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which doesn't make you a costume, it just makes you a target, I think. It's got in brackets, give a man a mask and they reveal the true identity. So maybe I think possibly for some cosplayers, when they go to these events, they really are truly comfortable when they're in cosplay to a degree. I don't know. Perhaps
I think so, yeah. There's something about covering yourself up. You take on a different persona.
Yeah. I think maybe we're touching on that here. But it was a lot of fun. I got talking to many people about my top and other cons they've been to. I guess the top with the names and the tick boxes. Whoever this person is, Sophia, Anastasia, Martine Richardson. The Sunday was my favourite day, as although it was busy, I was the Joker. She sent a picture dressed as the Joker. Actually, I'll put it in the blog entry for this episode when we publish it. Some people asked for photos and would talk to me about my outfit, which always fills me with pride as I made it myself. Being at the con gave me lots of ideas for my next cosplay. She's got in brackets here, Tin Man, as people would give me tips and help out. It does seem like the cosplay community, they are sort of genuinely interested in each other and what each other do. And I guess they like sort of mixing it up and having those photos and group photos together. I noticed that a lot of the costumes and that seem to be, I was bespoke's not the right word, is it? But they made them themselves. They built their own costumes up themselves. And I always think that's, you can see because they normally look better because they've put a lot of heart and work into what they're doing and they're forced about what they're doing. And I think they do genuinely look good on a lot of cosplayers as opposed to perhaps commercially brought costumes you sometimes see people in when you get the feeling it's a product and it just looks cheaper, doesn't it?
There's some awful cheap ones you can buy out there for 15, 20 quid. And I mean, like we were talking about Anne-Marie Burton, about how her costumes and how she tailors them for herself. They look much better, don't they?
Yeah, but yeah, this is it. I mean, it's the same with the Joker photograph that I'll put in the blog entry here that this contributors assembled to turn up in. I think the ones that the cosplayers, the fans themselves make do look a lot better. I mean, some of them ain't far off the real thing, let's face it.
Yeah.
Goes on to say, the stars were all amazing and so polite. Missy from Galaxy Quest, didn't we get to see her sitting there as well?
That's all right, Missy Pyle.
Is she the one that plays the alien that falls in love with the Galaxy Quest cast member, the guy that plays the engineer?
That's right. Is it Tony Shalhoub or something like that, isn't it?
She looks so different in real life, doesn't she?
Yeah, and she looks much different to how she looked in Dodgeball as well, where she played the Russian with the monobrow.
Yeah. I mean, she's kind of, God, talk about a fine wine. She's aged quite well, I think.
Yeah.
She goes on to say, the stars were all amazing and so polite. Missy from Galaxy Quest had a good 10-minute discussion with me about working with Alan Rickman. She's got in brackets, my hero. And then my top. So these t-shirts were obviously quite popular. Do you think one day there'll ever be someone walking around a convention with Hot Wampa next to a tick box?
I'd hope so. I don't know where our box would appear on the t-shirt, but...
in the armpit.
In the armpit, yeah. But it's a nice little sort of bingo chair, isn't it? Have you seen?
No.
Oh, I just thought if you got like a pattern, you get a lion or a house or something like that, you know. Yeah,
I didn't hear you clearly, mate, because your audio cracked up there a bit and broke, so I didn't quite get your full sentence.
Okay, I was just saying it'd be good for like bingo, you know, if you go around the
Celeb bingo.
Yeah, trying to get people to tick your boxes.
Yeah, Tom Skerritt, all the frees. We have an announcer. Yeah, and even took a photo of me, which made me feel very proud. So it sounds like they had a really good Comic-Con. Went on in their review. I also met Rusty Goff, who told me a story about working on the set of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and even had a joke about. Finally, so it sounds like Rusty Goff's a bit of a comedic character in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, I got to meet Benedict Cumberbatch, who I had a photo with. He complimented my Joker and a drawing I gave him. It makes you realise how important it is to some of these people. It's an adventure, isn't it, to meet celebrities? Yeah,
and I guess because their time is so precious and so many people want to meet them, it's difficult to get to meet them yourself.
But conversely, don't you think that makes the attendees' time precious as well? Because they've perhaps got one day a year, there's perhaps 3 or 4 celebrities they would really like to meet. They've got to queue and marshal the time and plan the journeys, and it's an expense as well. I mean, it's a precious thing 2 ways, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, we shouldn't devalue that, and it's the cosplayers and fans that make these things, I always think, more so than the corporate aspects to them. The weekend was amazing, yet tiring. The only change I could make would be to organisation. It was almost impossible to find the stars you want, and you would either need a ticket or pre-order autograph to see them, which wasn't clearly stated on the website, and very different to previous cons where you could just walk over and queue. What did you think of the organisation, Mark? Did you think it was a bit of a dog's dinner?
Well, it's pretty much similar every year. Basically, you do have those areas where there are celebrities. They're not all just in one room or one place. And some of them are, as we said, boxed in because they're the big names. But on the website, you can pre-order autographs or photo sessions. And then you get emailed a time slot. So it tells you what time you have to be in a certain place, which is why I think old Chris Vint was running around trying to get from one photo shoot to another. So I do think they're quite organised like that. Obviously, they do get some criticism for cancellations. I guess you can never guarantee that a celebrity is going to turn up until they're there on the actual day.
Yeah.
But like we're saying about time and privacy, these people do want it to be organised and scheduled right. And I've met Billy Piper and David Bradley and people like that, and very often it's just like I've stumbled upon them or they've walked into me as I've been walking down the corridor, So it is potluck at times, but I think that's all part of the event.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the aspect of it. I mean, these celebrities have to enter the building, they have to get to where they're sitting in the building, and they have to be able to move about themselves for lunch or bathroom breaks or what have you. So it is a bit of a lottery to a degree. You never know.
Yeah, and I think as far as organisation, which is a bit strange, but we found it difficult to get out of the London Film and Comic Con, didn't we?
Yes, we seemed to be walking around in like a circle for a long time, and we kept coming up against different doorways with uniformed staff on them that weren't actually letting us leave or re-enter the building via those doorways, which seemed a bit strange because some of them you could have got straight out on the streets with.
Yeah.
And what would we do in the event of a fire? Would we actually stand there while these people said, no, you can't leave the building via this method?
Exactly, because there are lots of exits and signs towards exits, but they were being policed and we were marshalled in a different direction.
Yeah, it's almost like a circuit, one way in, one way out. I mean, in the event of a fire, I'd have just forced the thing anyway and gone out that way. But I don't know why they were doing it that way. I mean, there wasn't a stampede. God knows. I mean, I guess that's up to them. They must have an idea why they did it that way. It just seemed a bit bizarre to me.
There's a poison ivy over there. Or my ex-girlfriend. So there's the queue. So it's quite short at the moment. So. I don't know if we do, Neil. I think we can just get to the back of it. There's a couple of guys here, crowd safety. Okay, we'll get back to you in a minute.
That's really as much as I've got on the London Film and Comic Con personally. I mean, do you just want to open up and talk about it informally? What was your highlight, Mark?
Yeah, like you were saying, Dave, cosplayers, I mean, that's always a factor. When you first turn up, you're a bit shy to ask them for photos, and but then as you go around, you realise that they're enjoying the photography, and people are very willing if they dress up to have photos with you. So I thought that was really good. Some celebrities that we saw, it was quite interesting to see them in person. People that I've never seen in London before. As far as, we didn't eat at the London Film and Comic Con. We went out to the Hand and Flower pub opposite, as I've done before, and we had a little nibble. We had some chips in there, didn't we?
Yeah.
And all the bar staff in that particular pub were dressed in cosplay too, so that was good fun.
Didn't you say in previous years there's been like drunk cosplayers hanging about outside of it and stuff?
Yeah, I've certainly seen Wolverine chatting up Wonder Woman and Batman intervening and stuff like that. Yeah, so it has kicked off in recent
no Marvel
years
DC crossover, hey?
Yeah, no crossover.
Yeah,
but it's just a good day out, and I think that's. I couldn't personally. I admire Chris Vint's dedication.
Yeah.
But personally, I couldn't spend 3 days there. I think for for me, one day is enough.
Yeah, but I think for Chris it is such a big thing, though. I mean, if you see some of his collections and stuff in some of his videos, I think for us, perhaps it is. Maybe, I don't know, is that an age thing or something like that? Perhaps a bit overwhelmed by it. I don't know. But I think if it's something that you're really into and you probably a degree of sort of mission planning prior to going.
Yeah.
And you organise what you want and you go for certain passions. And there are those little Easter eggs, I think, that you come across. Like I said, the Battlestar Galactica t-shirt that I picked up as an impulse buy, and we saw pieces of art and custom built stuff that I think impressed us and we enjoyed looking at. And, you know, if we'd have been wealthy men, perhaps we would have spent a bit more money. I know certain people within our party certainly splashed the cash, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to do there as well, as you say, where you see things that are slightly different to what you can find on the internet or on the high street. So
yeah, and see it there in the flesh, and you think, oh, hang on, that would probably look good in my living room as opposed to up on their display stand wall or what have you. So it's easy to do. It was okay. I mean, I did feel it was too much in the degree of a lot of conventions and stuff now that it was, to me, it felt over corporate. And that's my opinion. Yeah. You know, it was, you were paying to go into a sales expo to a degree. We got our money out of it to a degree because, like we said, we sort of gate crashed a talk or two and we got some nice photos and stuff, but it did feel a little bit soulless to me to a degree. Other people's opinions may vary. I mean, you did go through our reviewers stuff here and they clearly had a whale of a time. I mean, they really set out to enjoy it, and it sounds to me like they kind of, the dreams came true, that they got what they wanted from it.
Yeah, I think that is if there's someone you really want to meet or shake their hand, then that would probably make your day.
That highlight will keep you buzzing through the rest of it, won't it?
Is there anyone that you would actually go and pay for a photo shoot with, Dave, that didn't particularly come to this conference but might go to a future one?
Good question. Who would I pay to have a photo with? Oh, God, I've never really considered it. Ronald D. Moore, probably, executive producer of the original Battlestar. I'm not I'll start again, shall I? The reimagined Battlestar Galactica. I would pay for him. I think he's a really talented person. John Williams, possibly.
Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh, yeah, I would, but he'd have to bring his prices down a bit. I imagine he'd probably be quite expensive.
Yeah, I think Bruce Campbell for me. I'm a fan of those original Evil Dead films, and you know, he's big chin and he seems a good fun guy. So yeah, I'd have a photo.
Bruce Big Chin, Bruce Campbell or Bruce Forsyth?
Definitely Bruce Campbell, the American actor.
Yeah, so people like that, probably people wouldn't even think of, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I've not got much more on the Comic Con. We had a pint at the King's Cross station. We got split up and came home on different trains because you went for a curry, didn't you? Well,
actually, I told everyone, make sure you're on this platform, and the train's leaving there, I don't know, was it at 5:45, 6:45, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I went to Wasabi and was on the platform, and Filthy's phone died, so I knew he was on that train waiting because the train was in the platform. So I got on there and I rang Neil, who was one of our parties, and just said to him, "Are you on the train?" And he said, "No, we're still in the pub."
We were having another drink.
So you didn't make it. So yeah, so we journeyed back to. I was with Filthy, breaking the law because we had a group ticket, but there was only two of us. But you know,
that means we were breaking the law as well.
Well, no, because you had a group, didn't you?
Yeah, but surely that group should be related to a number of people.
Yeah, it's 3 people or more.
Oh, okay, so we were okay.
So you were okay, yeah, but we were running the risk. And I know you said you had a little story, didn't you, from that?
Hey, Billy, give me a way out of this hole. Ariel says we are cut off.
The only way out of here is that valley that leads to the east. I wouldn't wish that on a broke dig dog.
Not much choice.
I think we caught the 2:15 train, so I think we were about half an hour getting out of London after you guys were.
Yeah.
And we were walking down that train, and the first thing because I think there was me, Neil Walker, and then Neil's boss. There was 4 of us at that stage, yeah?
Yeah.
After getting my crutch sniffed by a police dog, I guess it was looking for explosives.
Interesting, yeah.
This thing just came bounding up to me and seemed to take an interest perhaps where it shouldn't. I can assure people I had no C2 or dynamite packed down there. That's just the way it is. God knows, other people might disagree. I don't know. We found the train on the platform, right?
Yeah.
And we're walking along it, and we're all mentally kicking each other with frowns, thinking, I wish we'd gotten the train with Mark and Filthy, because it was packed.
Oh, was it?
It was like sardines. It's like, can you imagine you see a documentary on the television from like India when they're all sitting on the roof and they're all rammed in there? It was a bit like that. There was like elbows and pieces of people's anatomy and stuff squashed up to the windows as you walked past.
Michael Palin was trying to make a documentary on it or something like that, you know.
He probably was in there somewhere, but I tell you, it'd be like needle in a haystack. You'd never find him with all the bodies that are in there. So we're walking along the length of the train thinking, oh God, I wish we'd got on the same one as Mark. You know. And we just couldn't see a space. And of course we come to first class, right? Right down the far end of the platform after walking through bloody steerage or what have you and not finding a spot in there. And there's like one family that was sat in the entire first class section, whatever it is, like 2 carriages at a table. And otherwise first class was empty. And we all sort of paused. We looked at each other. Should we risk it? Yeah?
Yeah.
It was like an unspoken word in the silence. It was the look on people's faces across the group of 4 of us. Should we do it? Should we just go for it? I don't know which one of us it was first, but we just all bundled into first class and sat down. So we sat there all quiet, almost as if we're subconsciously trying to behave ourselves, because like we're in first class and we're not supposed to be there and we don't want to get in trouble. But I don't think any of us could really be hassled to go back and get rammed in like a sardine in the main carriages. So we're sitting there all quiet and all nervous and worried. And talk about a stroke of good luck, yeah? Just before the train drew out, and I mean literally seconds, they put an announcement over the tannoy that due to passenger demand and overcrowding, that the entire train itself had been declassified and that first class was now open to standard passengers.
Oh, brilliant.
Talk about a stroke of good luck, because we were already sitting in there. And of course, as soon as they said that, first class itself just, you know, it's like turning a tap on over a bucket. It filled straight up. There were people in first class that were sitting in the corridors and sitting in the doorways, and kids that were sitting on the tables and parents' laps and stuff. Talk about a stroke of good luck. So we actually got to come home in first class. It was okay till Cambridge, when a load of drunk sort of family type got on board the train, and there was this big lanky drunk idiot was throwing lumps of sandwiches about in there. But otherwise, we had quite a cushy, comfortable little journey back in that way.
Well, sometimes Her Majesty, the Queen, actually takes that train, doesn't she, from King's Cross to King's Lynn?
She'd have been surprised by the way it looked that day, I tell you.
Yeah, especially if a coronation chicken came over her shoulder.
Yeah, he was eating like a sandwich or a Cornish pasty or something. There's lumps of food flying about everywhere. Oh, I had thought about picking it up.
Sounds like it turned into a bun fight.
Weren't far off it. I did think at one stage about picking some of it up and chucking it back at him, but yeah.
Well, you know what they say about the upper crust.
It wasn't that. I'll tell you, if I'd have paid extra to sit in that carriage, I'd have wanted my money back, because it was a right human zoo in there. I'm telling you, the way people were behaving. So yeah, but otherwise, I mean, sort of London to Cambridge, we had quite a luxurious and quite relaxed, comfortable ride back, really.
Well, we were in a carriage, and there was one of those things that is a table that you could add or fold down, or it could be removed for a disabled passenger. Okay. So we were sat in a nice little leggy area there, because as we said, Filthy's quite a large chap, so he likes to spread out. Yeah. And as the train, started to fill up, I realised I still had a Hot Wampa sticker in my bag, so I decided to just put it onto the board, the white sort of back of the table. Yeah. And the train got moving. We were sort of going along, and some drunk guy gets on with his attractive girlfriend. Right. And I think he was from Essex. He said he was in the military, and he was quite loud and liked the sound of his own voice. And then he said, "Oh, you two are right. You've got plenty of room," because they were standing up, weren't they? And he looked at the sticker and he said, "What's a bloody Hot Wampa? What's a bloody Hot Wampa?" And he kept asking his girlfriend, and he's done us a world of promotion, because he must have said the name about 100 times. and everyone was like shrugging their shoulders. I don't know. And I just said to him, "You should Google it." And he said, "Yeah, I will when I get home. I'll put Hot Wampa." And he kept on about it. So I said to Filthy, I think he likes Hot Wampa. So I removed the sticker carefully, and as we got off the train, I stuck it to his back. So he'll never forget that.
Maybe he's listening to us now.
Yeah. So there we go.
We'll never give a shout out. Okay, let's close that down. That's as much really as we can milk out of the London Film and Comic Con. Right, updates.
Payback time.
Feel the Force Day. There's been one update I've been made aware of. This, I think, came out yesterday on their Facebook page. Right, it says some of you may be aware of very new information relating to the theft of our equipment. This information has been passed to the police who are dealing with it. If you have any more information, please forward it to us privately or contact 101. We cannot comment on this, so please do not ask us to. Sounds like they've got a few leads in catching the, or possibly investigative leads about who's got Field of Force Day stuff.
Well, it sounds like it, and I mean, this stuff is quite specific, isn't it? So if it popped up at a car boot sale or something like that, you know, people, or an eBay, I mean, it'd be quite easy to sort of trace it back. 6 inflatable Darth Vaders turn up on sale somewhere together. It's a pretty safe bet, isn't it? Yeah. So that's at least good. It does sound like they've got something on it, but like I said, they can't comment, which I guess they can't comment on that. So that's a bit of an update from them. We've got them. Our own efforts to support them have been appreciated, and I've also been contacted and informed that some people have donated to them because of listening to our appeal. So it hasn't been a wasted exercise. Now, I'd like to address the elephant in the room on this, because we put the call out en masse, and if people have listened to the podcast appeal we made for voices coming in, asking people to donate to Feel the Force Day, those voices I would then take and mix into a montage to music at the end of the podcast, in the format that it ended up going out in, but obviously much shorter. The reason it came in much shorter was because we didn't get the feedback on it. Now, I posted it in several forums. I put it into the Hot Wampa mailing list. That's where Tim and Chris Vint came back to us from. Mm-hmm. All over our own social media, I posted it multiple times. I posted multiple and clear, what I felt at least, were clear instructions about what we were looking for from people. And yet it met indifference and apathy. Why is that? Any ideas about that, Mark? I don't really. I mean, charity, as you know, is... Well, it's very difficult to get people...
But we weren't even asking people for their money. What we wanted was voices in a montage that gave Feel the Force Day support and trying to encourage people to donate. So that's 2 minutes, right. 2 minutes on a mobile phone.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long, as you said. You could do it on a mobile phone, dictaphone, your laptop. There are many ways you could do it.
Pick up your iPhone, voice memos, record it. My name is Joe Blogs. Please donate whatever you can to the Feel the Force Day Just Giving campaign. Thank you. Attach that voice memo to an email, hot.wampa@yahoo.co.uk. And then you can go back to looking at fluffy bunnies on Facebook or whatever it was you were doing. It would have taken people at least 2 minutes and wouldn't have cost them a penny. But yet there was no response to it. Why are we looking at such apathy and such indifference? Were people perhaps, do you think, suspicious that it wasn't for charity? Were they suspicious of us?
I don't think they would have been suspicious of us. I mean, you know, we were doing this on behalf of someone else, and it was a good thing we were doing. But perhaps people don't know Feel the Force Day, and maybe that was the case. You know, maybe they would do it for us. I don't know.
But we were making a specific effort to get updates and videos and explanations about what it was all about out there.
Yeah,
that's what I don't understand, is that indifference. It has disappointed me because I've put a lot of energy and effort into doing it and hopefully trying to get a unifying force on board to send a message throughout this last week, and yet people haven't responded, and it, like I said, it would have taken them 2 minutes and wouldn't have costed them a penny. It is disappointing, and I was thinking about why we haven't had a response on it all week. And I'm wondering if it was cultural, because look at the responses we did get, other than the boys from the Best in Galaxy podcast, who were brilliant, who did the appeal in their characters from that podcast.
Yeah.
And Chris Vint, obviously, who comes from Northern Ireland. They all came from overseas.
Yeah, that's true. I noticed that as well.
Americans or Australians. I think that they're maybe used to culturally being a bit more generous and trying to help people out. I think that's possibly a problem with our own culture. I also think the times that people are raised in and the understanding of podcasting isn't very good. In other countries around the world, and we're getting to the stage from our own downloads from the feed where we're getting better supported abroad than we are domestically.
Yeah.
That's not to a degree a surprise. This country, in terms of language and their initial cultures, has had a big influence on the rest of the world. It's no surprise that we're starting to turn up in the rest of the English-speaking world, and we're picking up listeners in the rest of the English-speaking world. And then it seems to be that in those countries, they have understood and adopt podcasting much better. In this country, we still get downloads, but then when I sat and thought about this, it seems to me that we live in times when words like community and unity are buzzwords. They're trendy words. People will put them on Facebook statuses, people will have them on memes, and people then seem to go away like they're progressively holding the moral high ground. No, they are not buzzwords. They are real things. And this was to try and help real people and a worthy charity. Yeah, it wasn't just about to try and claim the moral high ground. It was to try and do the right thing. And I had a few Bob Geldof moments during the week when I felt like a rant because I could not understand what we had done wrong. Why were people not coming on to our appeal and supporting our appeal on behalf of Feel the Force Day, who frankly have to recover from this and haven't got the time to make an appeal? We're extremely grateful to the people that did come on and added their weight to it. Yeah, so there is redemption available. If people will donate, and it doesn't have to be a lot, give them a quid out of your pocket to the Feel the Force Day. Just give. Who's going to miss a quid? Nobody.
You'll probably find a quid down the back of your sofa.
Right, give them that then. Apply gift aid, £1.25, and actually put it towards a very good cause, which has taken a smack in the face in terms of setback and isn't getting the support it deserves. Don't be indifferent. Don't be apathetic. Donate to them. Tell us you've donated to them, and we'll give you a shout out on the show, and thanks. If you want to, or if you want to remain anonymous. But we make that offer. But please, people, don't be apathetic. Don't be indifferent. It's not a con. It's a worthy charity. If the problem was with us, fine. But at least support them. And that's all I want to say about it.
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man. We're all gonna die.
Sonny Landham.
Yeah.
Billy Soul, the tracker from Predator, 1987 Predator. He sadly passed away yesterday. Recollections of Sonny Landham, or Billy, or as many other guys as in film and TV, Mark? Where should we start?
Well, yeah, I guess we've got to start with Predator, which is probably his biggest role, or best remembered role anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, for us it was. I mean, he had a few lines in there that are quite iconic. Sonny Landham was born on February 11th, 1941 in Canton, Georgia, USA. He died, as we know, August 17th, 2017 in Lexington, Kentucky, USA from congestive heart failure. He was born William Landon. He stood 6'1.5", 1.87 metres, so he's kind of in that same physical ballpark as Arnie and Jess Ventura, those guys. An actor with a powerful physique, booming voice, and who has played several Native American characters, Sonny Landham first broke into mainstream film with a bit part as a police officer in Walter Hill's gang film The Warriors in 1979. Then other minor roles, he was in Southern Comfort, which I hadn't realised, 1981, and in Poltergeist. Isn't he one of the guys that goes to the house to record the activity?
No, he's one of the people that are working in the garden on a swimming pool.
Oh, okay.
And the daughter of the family sort of sticks her finger up to them out the window.
And before Walter Hill cast him in his first decent role as James Raymer's gun-happy criminal partner in the high-voltage hit 48 Hours in 1982. Landham continued to turn up in high-testosterone films of the mid-1980s, including the action sci-fi film Predator 1987, alongside Sylvester Stallone in Lock Up 1989, and being hurled out of a window by Carl Weathers in Action Jackson in 1988. So that's twice he's turned up with Carl Weathers.
Yeah.
In Predator and Action Jackson. His career on screen wound down during the 1990s, but he still managed to crop up in several roles taking advantage of his strong physical presence. Can you remember him throughout those roles, Mark?
Well, I can remember him definitely from Poltergeist. That certainly pops up. Predator, yeah. I think, is his main role that we always remember him for. Action Jackson, I don't really remember him. I've seen it, but he also turned up in Happy Days as a French cook. So that was 1974. So he did have a long career, really, up until 2009. So
yeah, I think he was in his 40s, early 40s when he was in Predator.
Yeah.
I've got some trivia on him, and this is where the guy gets really colourful and interesting in talking about him, right? Did you know that he was a former 1970s porn star?
I didn't know that, no.
Yeah, he was. He went on to say, later on in his career, on his appearances in porn films, if I was going to do it now, knowing that I'm going to have 4 children, knowing that I'm going to run for office, he had a bit of a political thing as well, you see. No, I wouldn't make that choice, but at the time I made a choice of getting a paycheck, staying alive for your big break. So I don't know whether we'd say that he started small, but he certainly started independent.
Well, he grew, didn't he? Yeah, he spent 3 years in the army, which
Yes,
I guess
he
a
did.
lot of those people in Predator probably did, didn't they?
Yeah, well, Jess Ventura was a former Navy SEAL, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So it's all that kind of background. I know that he tried to sue some local TV stations who showed clips of his movies, and I'm guessing that's his more adult-orientated movies during news broadcasts without paying him, and that the lawsuits were settled. During the filming of Predator, I think this is something we've discussed before, a bodyguard was hired not for his protection, but because the film's insurance company worried for the safety of the cast with him around.
Yeah.
On the 18th of June 2003, he held a press conference at the Kentucky State Capitol in Frankfurt to announce his withdrawal as an independent candidate for governor of the state of Kentucky. So a bit like Jess Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger, his Predator co-host, he actually had a crack at running as a state governor too.
Oh, okay.
He withdrew on the advice of campaign consultants who determined that Landham campaign was 6 months behind schedule and that he didn't have the money to run the successful campaign.
Yeah, so he's up there with Arnie, I guess, and obviously the former state governor of Arkansas, Blaine himself, Jesse Ventura.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He went on to become known as a filmmaker. He produced movies, directed movies, wrote movie scripts, and even became a published author with his book Total Man. So I guess he's trying to write a book, that summarises quite a broad and colourful career. Sonny's main passion, though, in his later years was golf. His big break in movies came when one of Hollywood's all-time great directors, Walter Hill, cast him as Billy Bear in 48 Hours. The movie offers started coming fast and furious, among them Predator, Fleshburn, Firewalkers, and many others, plus TV offers. Landham has produced, directed, and moderated a political education DVD, which will be on the market spring 2006, so this is retrospectively. He's currently busy at work as president of the Sonny Landham Foundation, so he got his own foundation up and running after himself and made speeches across the country. He's a descendant of the Cherokee and Seminole nations, so he is a genuine First Nations actor. There's no pulling the wool over his eyes. He looks the part as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Physically, he looks very much like he's descended from that. After having done the character in the now famous 48 Hours as Billy Bear, he has had many roles when he is either called Billy or Bear or both. In a 1985 Hardcastle and McCormick episode, You Don't Hear the One That Gets You. 1985 as Sheriff Billy Blackstone. In 1987's Predator as Billy Soul. And in a 1996 movie, Billy Lone Bear as Billy Lone Bear. And his last known appearance as Chief Bear in 2009's Mental Scars video. So it seems like whatever role you had him in, he was either called Billy or Bear or Billy Bear.
Well, perhaps that was the best way to get him on set, just call him by his own name.
He sounds like a very personally difficult person, doesn't he?
Yeah.
In both 48 Hours and Predator, Sonny's character was known as Billy, and in both films he dies shirtless and brandishing a large knife. Don't want to get him stereotyped here. This is interesting, and I saw a video of him like this yesterday online, where somebody had managed to round him up a few years back and got him to recite lines from Predator.
Okay.
And he's sitting there with, he's still got this, like the hat that the character of Billy has in Predator.
Yeah.
He was wearing that, but obviously in his 70s, so he's sitting there like an old guy. And he's got like one of these oxygen things you see people have come from a bottle, like the tube that runs under the nose.
Yeah.
Not doing too well. I know recently, just before he passed away, he was actually listed as homeless. And he's sitting there as an old guy and he's reciting some of his famous lines from Predator, amongst which there's something out there and it ain't no man and we're all going to die, and all these kinds of lines that he came out with in the movie. Poor sod, he lost both his legs in a car crash.
Is that true?
Yes, it is true. He was sitting there in the video whilst he was reciting these lines. This was done a year or two ago, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got shorts on and he's basically got stumps at the point where his knee joints are. So he did lose both of his legs in a car crash.
Wow.
And towards the end of his life, I mean, it sounds very much like his health did give out on him. And sadly, what was it, 76, he's passed away. I don't know. I mean, I only really think of him as Predator, Mark.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you. I think, that was the film that he was sort of on par with Arnie in that, wasn't he? And, he stood up to the Predator and bought them some time, didn't he, at the end? And his death scene was probably one of the best death scenes in the film.
Dies very bravely on that log, brandishing the knife to fight the Predator. Yeah, I mean, he was that was the entire cast of, larger-than-life action characters, wasn't it?
Yeah.
By the time you had Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sonny Landham, Jess Ventura, Bill Duke, Carl Weathers, Shane Black and Richard Chaves, Hawkins and Ramirez, respectively, I don't think were quite such big characters. But there was a camaraderie about them, and they were characters. You kind of liked them, and you could see there was a degree of chemistry between them and humour between them. And I think, that probably is his highest point, don't you think?
Yeah, it must have been. I mean, he's turned up, as you say, in a few bits and pieces, TV shows, etc. But he never hit any higher point than Predator.
I think Predator suited him because in that he was cast as what he actually was, which was a Native American. And you got the feeling, he was the patrol tracker, the patrol scout, that he probably could be a character that could trace you just from the shape of your shoe prints across open country or something like that. Do you know what I mean? You got the feeling that the character, to me, although he was exaggerated, sort of larger-than-life action-type character, it felt to me like there was a degree of authenticity to Billy in the way he played him.
Something's got Billy spooked.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there, standing there, staring into the trees,
Yeah. And to be honest, let's face it, for that cast of characters, you'd have to be someone who could carry a presence to fit in amongst them, and I think he fitted in perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like he was married 4 times, and he had various political views and ran for political office that weren't the kindest. I mean, I'm not going to quote that about him because I don't think that, even though I've got that information in front of me, because I don't think that's relevant here. Yeah, it's a shame because we've seen these guys from films that we love from our childhood and they're no longer with us.
And then we're getting tributes from Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. Yeah. And we find out that he died with amputated limbs and practically homeless. So
really hard times, and it's such as another one that's gone like that. I think from our childhood is Michael Vincent. I understand he's classed as homeless now, and nobody's seen him in years.
Wow! So
it goes to show me these people that were sort of larger than life, and they are going now, and it's a shame. And Sonny was only in his 70s, which this day and age is no age. I mean, people are quite often living well into their 80s and 90s these days. So, we just wanted to have a bit of a moment and talk about Sonny, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Nothing else on the agenda from us then?
No, but I mean, coming up, we're going to have a regular episode, aren't we? And I guess the 51st it would be, officially.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some local news that I've mentioned to you earlier that you knew about, and that's quite fun. So, hopefully our next episode will be back to Star Wars news, showcase local news, like a regular format, won't it?
Yeah, them bizarre penguin things that we talked about that are in the Last Jedi mini reel that we talked about last time we talked about Star Wars news. They've got a name. They're called Porgs.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think they're partly responsible for the amount of posts on social media for distracting people away from our charity campaigns. So I hate Porgs now. They've gone below Jar Jar Binks and Ewoks for me. They're right at the bottom of the heap. I think they should all be shot with an air rifle. I'm sorry, folks. The only good porg is a dead porg. They do look tasty, though.
Are they from Sweden?
What, the porg?
Yeah, it could be Beyond Porg.
I thought they were a cybernetic organism. Resistance is futile.
Cyborgs.
Yeah, cyborgs. Yeah, they look like they'd be nice in some breadcrumbs or battered and deep fried.
Yeah, I don't know what use they could be to a Jedi, really.
I don't know. Hopefully lightsaber training, throwing them up in the air, then slashing them as they come down. That's how I would choose to use them. Yeah, I blame them for distracting people away from the fact that we were trying to get people on board to support a charity. But like I said, people can redeem themselves in my eyes by making a donation. And even if it's only £1, don't be tight. You can afford £1. Get on with it. Tell us you've done it and we'll give you a shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I know how Bob Geldof felt and I know why he swore. Because I was having this thing for this week thinking, what is wrong with people? Why aren't they interested? Just give them a quid. Just do something, yeah? If the campaign's still up and running at that time. And make a lot of disabled people very happy. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. And like I said, because it is still a sore subject with me that we couldn't get people on board. And if I keep prattling on about it, we'll lose listeners.
Well, fair enough, Dave. And I mean, I'd just like to say a testament to Dave's efforts, really, putting together some really good output on on Field of Force Day, and his editing and professionalism, and I can understand why it affects you even more, Dave, when you made a great effort this week. So
I made the effort because I care about it, and that's the most important thing. And we know that they have had some donations as a result of it, which is, to me, that makes it worthwhile. What has bothered me is the fact that I think they could have made more, the word could have spread, and we could have used people's voices to try and hammer home the message for people to donate. I wanted a vast array of different voices that gave that message, and it never came in. Thank God the people that did come good for us, because they were some big names. But I'd like it to have been everyone. And that is what has bothered me more than anything, because to a degree it's been successful. I've had donations as a result of it, and I would have done it if they'd have got a donation of just £1, and I know the donations they've had have been higher than that. It's the indifference and apathy and lack of interest. And like I said, it's trying to work out why that's the case. And like I said, I've thought about it a lot and I've gone through those theories in the mind. Is the problem with us? Is the problem with me? Don't we have that merit? I don't know. But, people, redeem yourself. Just give them £1. You can afford £1, for Christ's sake. I'll lend you £1, then you can donate £1. There you go. If it's that difficult to do. And that's all I'll say on it, because like I said, I am a little bit sore about it still.
Okay, Dave.
And we'll come back to more normal scheduling, and hopefully by then I won't be like a bear with a sore head about it. But yeah.
Is that Billy Bear?
Sorry? Billy Bear. Yeah. What's got Dave so spooked? So yeah, we'll come back to the normal programming coming up, which will be whatever we're going to do in Showcase, all the latest Star Wars news. We've got some good local news stories. I mean, you've mentioned that one, but we've come across earlier. There's a couple of really funny ones that I've saved away in my links, and one of them I can't wait to get in, and that's when a group of vicars decided to go out for a drink and they got mistaken by the pub landlord as being out on a fancy dress stag party.
Yeah, that's right.
Which sounds like a great one to get into. So we've got some good local news coming up. We'll Feel the Force Day. We will keep people updated on that, so it's like a conscience, so they have to look in the mirror. Yeah, all good stuff on the way from us, really. And we'll talk to you all again soon. Bye-bye and take care.
Take care.